Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. Before we begin, just want to remind you to follow us wherever you listen so you don't miss any episodes or bonus content. If you love what we do and want an easy way to show your support, please consider leaving us a positive, that's all the stars, rating on your favourite listening platform. It helps SPN and fanfic lovers find us and share in the fun. I'm Kasey.
I'm Sandra, and today we're excited to welcome back Jules, managing editor of SuperWiki, a supernatural canon and fandom resource. The last time Jules was on the podcast, we chatted about fandom and how the SuperWiki has become an archive not just of the show Supernatural, but the fandom that has been built around it. Today, fanfiction is the main topic. Jules has written SPN fanfic as Missyjack, and we can't wait to hear her thoughts on fixits, AUs, and tentacle porn. So huge thanks for joining us and welcome to the podcast, Jules. Thank you for coming back.
Welcome. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me back. I don't always get invited back. Usually it's just to come back and apologise for what I said last time.
Not at all. Not at all.
I don't think we've ever had somebody back who's had to apologize about anything.
Never.
No, when we have people back, it's usually, well, I think the last time, like I said, I believe we wanted to kind of touch on fanfic a little bit more, but I know you've been in so many fandoms and you had so much to talk about and to give us information on in terms of how, you know, the supernatural fandom came about, the different ways social media changed fandom in general. And you've got this wealth of knowledge. And I mean, the SuperWiki in and of itself is like, it's just the resource, you know. It's
currently being utilized by us for a different episode. I have a tab open right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're gonna.
Oh, yay!
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we are.
I still get, anytime someone, and often happens on social media, and someone will say, "Oh, I was just using the wiki for this fic I'm writing, or for this, article I was doing, or something, or my thesis at college or whatever." And
wow!
You get so excited when I hear people.
Yeah, I was excited too because I think when we had talked, I was like, I'd done like a page on like burgers because I had talked about like, you know, my like little obsession with like, you know, Dean eating hamburgers upside down. And so I did the chart, I made a thing. So there's a page on there now about burgers in case anybody wants it. But yeah, we're doing best knockouts. We're going to do those in like maybe a couple weeks. We're going to rank those. So somebody sent us, here's a page, unconscious. And it's got all of the ways Sam's been.
95
I remember when it used to be a whole thing in the early years. It was like, Sam's getting choked by, or knocked out in a motel room. It must be Thursday.
It happens with far too much regularity, but also, has he considered looking less pretty when he does it? Like the hair goes swoosh. And you're like, oh, that's weird. I go back to the wiki with more frequency than I should, either to look up nicknames or things that Sam drinks, because every time I go back, I'm like, maybe this time it'll be different. It's the equivalent of opening the fridge, going, none of these spark joy, closing it, walking away, coming back and going, maybe there are new things in the fridge.
I think I wanted to ask just a little bit about SuperWiki. Like, how are things going with it? Are you, because I think the last time you were getting some stuff figured out behind the scenes on the back end. Has all that stuff kind of been figured out?
Yes. Long story short, moved to a new hosting system and also tech support. Wikis are a large database, basically. So they need good server size, particularly when you're as big as our wiki and have as many users. And also I need that tech support of people who know how to fix things when they get broke. And we needed to upgrade security and things like that. So that's all going well. Hopefully in the process of sorting out a few more enhancements that'll just help make things look prettier. And there's various wiki extensions you can put in that again, just help with the usability of the site. So that's all good. It is our 20th anniversary this year,
Oh, nice.
which is
Oh.
pretty incredible for any fandom project to last for 20 years. So watch this space for some celebrations coming up in the middle of the year.
Nice.
Amazing.
If you're in need of like people to help, like say with any type of assistance or anything like that, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
So there's a contact email on the front page at supernaturalwiki.com. And yeah, look, anyone who wants to get involved, some people just like going through and fixing grammar, or like whatever it is you want to do, or if you've got a particular interest. There might be pages that need updating or cleaning up, or you might, you've catalogued all the different colour socks that Sam wore. You would like to create that as an entry. We are happy for that. I'm really keen to get people, if they want to archive projects that maybe they did on Tumblr, particularly to maybe host them now on the wiki, because people move away from things and sometimes they delete the page, or and maybe it's even an old Supernatural website, and I'd really like to help preserve our broader history.
That's nice.
And also, if you've got just stuff about Supernatural fandom, we are pretty cover a lot, but not everything. And there might have been something you were involved with, and even now with TikTok, I'm not active on TikTok. I visit there occasionally, but if you're deep in the fandom on TikTok, if you want to do, I'd love someone to do a page on people doing rewatches at the moment, particularly new people, not just the podcast, but people just doing reaction video. There's an endless list of things to still be done.
Yeah.
And it's really enjoyable thing to do. You get to play with something and create something that people will visit and make use of. We're still adding the new things, of course, updating with, recent stuff with the boys. Jensen's on tracker for the next 2 episodes. So I did in this week's newsletter, I did a what's happened in season 3 of Tracker if you only watch the Jensen episodes, which I'm sure many people do. So he was in the first 2 episodes of the season, and now it's 20 episodes later. So I did a bit of a recap of that and had to watch more Tracker than I would probably do otherwise. Damn you, Jensen Ackles. And if you happen to, I don't know, you're a big fan of Mike Borja or Alana Huffman, and you know what they're doing, and we haven't updated that on the wiki. Please fill out their page.
All the little niches, right? Like that make the fandom this huge thing. It's really important, and I think it's like you said, knowing what people invest in or obsess in is something that I think is very. It just brings another layer of how important this fandom is for people in all sorts of ways. So I think that's great. Yeah, no, I would definitely, and I'll try to make sure too in the description, as a reminder.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'll put in like the email and stuff too. Like, don't forget if you want to try to get involved in preserving, because I think that's our little part of it too, right? It's like trying to be this little time capsule of a moment in Supernatural fandom.
Absolutely. People forget, or maybe I think now people are realizing that the stuff on the internet's really ephemeral, and at least for SuperWiki's been going for 20 years, and I hope it'll be there for another at least 20 years. It's somewhere things can live as people move on from the fandom, or when your website's going down and things like that. So
of course, I think it's interesting too. And then I promise we're going to get into fan fiction. But the one thing that I like too is that, like, I've noticed more people making comments about if people have watched The Boys and they're like, well, if you like The Boys, if you like Soldier Boy, you probably want to give Supernatural a try because you'll probably love Sam and Dean Winchester. And so it's almost like it's got this feedback loop of these.
It's a gateway drug to the
absolutely.
Fandom. And of course there are people all the time still discovering the show, and it's great that they can then discover this cornucopia of content, even just being able to go back and find links to all the convention panels going back to 2006. Like, you know, you can spend a lifetime in there.
You can. You
Yeah.
can. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sandra, did you update our wiki page?
I did. I did update our wiki page. I was like, hey, I have access. I'm going to update Idling in the Impalas page. So
I went to our page because it used to just have like our bio, but now it's got loads of information. I'm like, oh my god.
I was like, you know, do the thing.
And
Like,
we want to we're that resource for, you know, any fan project. And as obviously supernatural centric, but as things have, you know, evolved and gone on, you know, if you're doing something boys related or tracker related and, you know, you want to put it on there, you know, I'm more than happy. It's
nice.
I one thing I do feel now is that, you know, a lot of newer fandoms don't have that home. And as, you know, things have got dispersed over social media. And so with the newer fandoms that I'm in, you know, there's nowhere where you can go and look up all the times that show's been in TV Guide or the interviews that they did at Comic-Con or something. And so it's frustrating for newer fans who don't like where, you know, you have to go and do a lot of hard work to try and find that content. So,
you're spoiling all the new Supernatural fans, Jules. Spoiling them.
And people aren't setting up fandom specific websites anymore. They just don't.
That's true. It's very true. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, fan fiction. Let's I'm moving myself out. So I think I wanted to ask you, like, what fandom first got you into fanfic?
I don't still own the copy, but I used to have an exercise book from when I was in grade 3. And this is in the 1960s. And I'll call it my very first fanfic was for a show called The Patty Duke Show, which I'm sure neither of you have heard of.
Oh, I used to watch it. I watched it on reruns. Yes, I
really?
did.
Okay.
Yes.
So I wrote. It was about.
The name is familiar.
It was about identical twin cousins, and it was a sitcom. And I had a story in there based on the characters in that. So, you know, at the age of 8, I was writing, you know, stories based on TV shows I watched. And I don't think
that's awesome.
Yeah. Is Patty Duke, is she Sean Astin's mother? Yes. So I'm trying to give Kasey a connection there with Lord of the Rings. So I think
there you go.
Yeah.
It's a long,
that's never a bad shout. I'm like, I know who Sean Astin is. Brilliant. Good. Solidify in my memory. Always good. Rudy Hobbit always gets a pass.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So that's really started, and I was just like, before I knew what, you know, I didn't know that was called fanfic, and I don't think anyone did in whatever that was, the late 60s.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, you know, I'm sure it took a while. Did it take a while for you to then, like, as you moved on to maybe writing other fanfic before you were like, oh, this is fan fiction? Like, when did that?
Look, it probably wasn't until, probably wasn't really until the early internet years that I really found out about fanfic. Again, pre-internet, I'm in Australia, you know, unless you're maybe involved in a fan club of some sort, that where you could get a photocopied zine that had fanfic in it. Yeah. You know, it just wasn't, you know, so the stories I did, I wrote them down for myself or whatever, but I didn't know anyone else. I mean, I didn't think there was anything strange about it, but I didn't know there was a whole lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
I knew people were fans of things, but I didn't really find out about fan culture until, you know, it would have been the late 80s when I got access to the internet. And even then, I suppose, in the 90s, you know, my first big online fandom was the X-Files. Although I was mainly, and it has, I suppose I'm both a fan fiction and a fan non-fiction writer, so I've always written a lot of non-fiction about my shows as well as fiction. So, you know, long, thoughtful, insightful essays just deconstructing the characters and the socio-political context of whatever's going on and that sort of thing. The X-Files, a friend and I kept, we had a folder where we used to try and map all the mythology for the X-Files until we gave up and burnt it because we worked out the writers didn't know either. So. But that's when I became aware because obviously there were, that's reputedly where the term shipper came from, were the Scully and Mulder shippers. So, and then retroactively, I then started finding out about. I mean, I knew about Kirk and Spock by then, but I started finding out how wide fanfic was spread through anything that had a fan.
So online on the internet, early 90s, like fanfic platforms basically would have just been like websites that people had created, say, for shows, or there were message boards, different things like that.
Yeah,
that people would
message
talk
boards,
about it.
GeoCities, email groups, those sort of
web
things.
rings. Did you guys? I mean, I remember web rings. Yes. Okay, yes. I think I mentioned that to Kasey a while back, and they were like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, web rings. Where you get this little HTML that you'd put at the bottom of your site, and if it was related, like for me, it was Leonardo DiCaprio way back in the day. So it was like I had a Leo site, a GeoCities something. And then like I would have this little thing at the bottom so that somebody could press next or random or whatever, and it would take you to another Leo site that was in the like the database that somebody had. Yeah. Like
so it was like a decentralized way of all the sites in a community connecting. So you didn't have to be on the same platform, if you like, but you could still link to it, which wonderful model. Totally should go back to it. So it meant that you could have that. And back then everyone was building their own websites or message boards or whatever. It was not always easy, and, a lot of us had to learn to code to do that.
Yeah.
But, that's what we did. And it was like then, the shift started coming in really with the introduction of LiveJournal. MySpace, although that was more a music fandom, I think, rather than, media fandom. But, LiveJournal and the sites similar to LiveJournal then it really was the first social media, it was one platform where we all started living. And even if I wasn't on there, from the beginning, but I was on message boards, and then people would link to fic that was on LiveJournal. So soon discovered where the good shit was.
So that was your first main platform for fan fiction, was LiveJournal for you, or was there anything before that you found fan fiction on?
Again, there were a lot of the whatever you want to call the message boards, fan forums would have their own host their own fic, and people set up their own fandom fic archives. So whatever TV show you were watching could be on for 3 episodes, someone would be setting up a fanfic archive.
Yeah.
Again, because things were very decentralized. It was like people recognised that, if we put everything in the one place, it doesn't matter that we're all on 17 different message boards.
Yeah.
We know we can go there and find, a lot of the fic. Again, a lot of that started to decrease as LiveJournal became the centre of, sort of fanfic. But there was also, fanfiction.net as well, where, was the main previous site. But again,
but that one was clunky too. I mean, I used fanfiction.net a little bit.
I tried to use that recently for a very old, well, no, it's not very old, but in terms of archive of our own age, it's the show is older than that. So there's not that much fic on there. It's unusable. You can't filter properly. I'm I'm an archive of our own, baby. I'm spoiled.
And they had various, let's call them purges, starting in the early 2000s of getting rid of, I'm doing air quotes at the moment, adult material. They got rid of RPF, so it became a less desirable site. But it's still, I'd say, up until the early 2010s was still a place that most people found fanfic for the first time, because if you typed in fan fiction into
You
a
would
search
see that.
engine.
Yeah, that was
That's
the one.
what you
Like,
got. Yeah.
yeah.
I was familiar with it before I was familiar with Archive of Our Own.
Mhm.
I didn't use it, but I knew of it. It's just
I think some of the first supernatural stuff I found was on fanfiction.net, and then
Yeah, and a
usually
lot
you
of
can see
people
it. Mhm.
started their fanfic writing careers there. It by the time Supernatural was coming around, and certainly on LiveJournal, it was very much looked down on. It was called the Pit of Voles.
okay.
It was considered sort of, lower quality writing. We were very snobbish about it.
Okay.
Everybody's like that though, aren't they? My thing is the best.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So my question is, because I mean, I just recently created a LiveJournal account, and to me, that's still my brain still has a hard time. And I think I've only done it for like one thing where I was attempting to maybe sign up for a challenge or something. But has LiveJournal, and I don't know how much you've maybe even like dipped back into it or just checked in on it, has that changed a lot from that when it was bought out? I think it was around 2009 where like a Russian company sort of like took over, and I know there was a whole purge thing that was happening, I think, around that time.
Yeah, look, we could have a whole episode just on the migration and the changes. LiveJournal was still really active, certainly for Supernatural fandom, right up until the mid 2000, like around 2015, 16 was still really a site of activity. Not anymore, but it was still a place that even if people were on Twitter. If you'd never been on LiveJournal and you had a Tumblr, you weren't going to. Again, you might join LiveJournal if you had to for a fanfic challenge, which a lot of continued to be hosted there. But a lot of us, even when Twitter became my main fandom site, I was still. I can go back and look, and I was still posting regularly on LiveJournal, and again, it was sort of like. We would all go back there because, we had friends that we'd had on there for many years. So we'd often post, and even still I get email notifications that, someone I haven't thought of in 10 years has just posted, and it'd be like, it was not like a sad story, but someone I knew through Supernatural fandom posted because their mother had died. And I think they just, they wanted an outlet to talk about it.
Right.
And it was someone who I had known very well, and so it was lovely to be able to reconnect. And it is like going back to your hometown, if you like, but
or like a reunion, almost like a high school reunion. Or different things.
And look, I know you had Killer Bees on last year.
Yeah.
So she and I, we're in a Discord with a whole group of us who were there. Who met through LiveJournal in the early days, so that we set that up just so we could keep contact with each other as we all drifted off to different platforms.
Yeah, that was one of the migration questions I think I had too, because I find like delving into that whole like why people were moving from one thing to another. If you had to like say like your fanfic platform journey, like do you have like a couple that you've like hit and like maybe you've just settled on one thing in particular when it comes to fan fiction? For you?
Look, LiveJournal, I'd say the bulk of my fanfic reading, writing and everything was LiveJournal. Obviously now it's AO3. But I suppose a lot of the and the things I get nostalgic and wistful for are the culture around fanfic on LiveJournal. I mean, fanfic was queen on LiveJournal. Like the most well-known and popular and adored fans were the popular fanfic writers. And we had so much things like that, there were multiple communities, which were the groups that you could set up on LiveJournal, with people reading and reviewing fics and we called them recommending communities. There was one called SPN Roundtable, which, similar to what you're doing, was doing interviews with authors and discussing tropes and posting fic recs. There was another one called SPN Themes that I was involved with, where we would pick a theme and rec on it, like here's stories based around holidays, here's stories based around sports, here's a whole lot of tentacle porn. So there was a big culture around, and there was a community for every niche type of fanfic that you could think of. So there were the big sort of, there was what was actually called Dean Cass. What's it called? DeanCass.com. Anyway, there was, the big Wincest community and Destiel communities, but then there was, ones for people who liked it when Sam got hurt. There was, fat Dean community. There was, there was every little. I'm trying to think of some of the more obscure ones, like ones where the characters had stomach upsets. Really niche.
Okay, yeah.
We don't yuck yums, but
yeah.
I set up one in the early years, very subtly called Cunnilingus Fic, the subtitle of which was "The Winchester Boys Go Down."
Yes. Sandra's like, I can just imagine Sandra's ears perking up and like, you rang. Yes, link me to this immediately.
The idea
Sorry, Sandra,
being
just outed you there.
If you wanted to read a certain sort of fic, then you got out there and you either wrote it or you encouraged people to write it. So having a community for a niche interest, it wasn't just posting the fic, because then you had a built-in audience who wanted to read it, and you'd chat in the comments, and it was a fandom within a fandom. So all that around fanfic, and then of course Winchester Con or WinCon, that was the fan convention in the early years, again was very much based around fanfic. We had panels that were all had fanfic authors, and we discussed betaing fics and mythology and tropes and all that sort of stuff. So it was very much a fanfic centric culture, and I think that shaped very much my experience of supernatural fandom, but also what I value in all fandoms around, creativity. Not only fanfic, it was art and edits or videos and everything else, but, it was just valuing that fan creativity.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I know I love about Archive of Our Own is the fact that it is in fact an archive, and that you can, you know that it's like a repository of like stuff that people can just keep collecting and saving and sharing that way. But it sounds like with LiveJournal and the community aspect of it, it was a little bit easier to connect the fic with the responses and the people. Like comments are great, but the chances of maybe like going beyond the comments in AO3, it kind of limits you and silos that part of it. Like unless you literally are talking to somebody, hey, you can find me here, or you put stuff in your profile and somebody goes and looks at your profile, it's like, oh, this person's here, here, and here. This is where I can maybe find them to talk about more things. LiveJournal had more of that stuff kind of interconnected. And even like with the niches that you were talking about too, having the ability to search a fic, because we talk about this all the time on AO3, like there's so many fics that you find that you're like, but this could have been tagged this, and who's missing out? Yeah. Who's missing out on a really great fic that could fall into this category because the writer didn't?
There's no easy answer to the tagging dilemma. Although I think you should be restricted to no more than 10 tags on any fic.
You got people clutching their pearls when you say
me. I'm people. What do you mean 10? What do you mean 10?
But then again, that part of that comes from, as you say, the fact that I came from an environment where we not only did we have these very niche fic communities, but also the culture of reviewing and recommending meant that I could go to there was a review community called Crack Impala, and each day they would review a different pairing. Or art form. I think they had one day was just vids or something. But you could go there and you could find a synopsis of the fic and, usually a couple of sentence review about, what was good about it or whatever. So it was a more narrative approach to knowing what the fic was about rather than relying on tags.
Yeah.
So, and you knew the people who were doing it too. So again, because it was within a community, people might go, oh, well, Jules has recommended that.
You trusted that. You trusted that
Oh, I
source.
was going to say the opposite. No.
Oh.
You don't trust it. But most of the communities would have a roster of people so that you weren't just getting the same couple of people all the time.
Yeah.
But you had your own personal journal that people, would do you recommend fics yourself. But, the archive is, as you say, an archive. Any social stuff is very incidental, whereas LiveJournal community, that also had a whole lot of fic on it. So it was sort of a good melding of the two, because if we started chatting in the comments of a fic, I could then go and look at your personal journal and friend you or whatever. So it was a different space.
I do wish AO3 had that though. Like I totally get it as like a digital archive, a digital library, but like sometimes you want to message an author and be like, hi, we share the same weird niche interest, but you don't want to out yourself in the comments, But sometimes you want to message people and be like, hello, can we discuss this further?
Yeah. Do you think there's a time, Jules, like looking back because it sounds like there were so many people that were so invested, there was like a sweet spot of like fanfic involvement for Supernatural fans. I mean, you were talking about like a daily rec or reviews or synopses that people were like sharing and stuff on LiveJournal. Do you feel there was what was the big boom time that you can think about? Was there a span of years?
It was really, it was, as I said, I would say on LiveJournal at least until 2015, but then in the 2010 to 2010 is when really 2010 is when Tumblr really started taking off. So that was a whole parallel ecosystem developing at the same time. And of course there were people who'd never been on LiveJournal who've discovered the show, particularly around season 4, so 2008, 9, and they joined Fandom on Tumblr. And that as well was a hugely, and still is, probably Tumblr now is is still a rich site for, that's where I'll often go to look up, I always go to look up fanfic challenges and things like that is on Tumblr. If I want to find out, or Discords or, that I'll go to.
They seem to be moving towards Discords now. Like there'll be a Tumblr public thing, but then it'll be like you're encouraged to join the Discord, or, a lot of them are Discord joining is mandatory.
Yeah. And I think Discord servers are the LiveJournal fic communities of
it's that same kind of
20s, because you can have your very specific interest, or at least put the guardrails around this is what we want to focus on. And so if they're joining it, that it's a Destiel com or a Wincest com or we only want to talk about seasons 7 to 11 in this Discord or whatever it is. So that you've already then got a like-minded group of people to, again, rec fix with and write or, whatever you want to do in there. And I think that's become, it's sort of a new version of what we, used to value about some of that community aspect on LiveJournal and on Tumblr, of course, as well too. And I just think, once you've got the Discord, you can set up your own. Oh, it's like the old, message boards of old, really. Whoever runs it can set up whatever rules you like, and if you join them, then that's how you're going to interact in that community, which I think is a good thing.
I think one of the things I love talking like to you, or like talking to Killer Bees, or just the way fan fiction kind of rides these waves of like, this is great, we love this, we hate this, people don't like, we poo-poo this, we like, these are things that we don't really look too fondly of. And I remember talking to Nixosity, it was our first interview with her, and I think Kasey and I were both like, it was a revelation, because again, I think we started back 2019, I think is when I could say I maybe started getting into the Supernatural fan fiction part of everything. And she had said that reader insert was very much like people looked collectively, I guess. I shouldn't say everybody did, but it wasn't something people really maybe was valued or people really liked as much.
Oh my God, you would get run off LiveJournal for posting. No, let's be really clear about it. If it was skirting the edge to do second person POV, you could get away with that if you're a good writer, and there was a reason for it. But reader insert, no, that was. I don't think I ever saw one on LiveJournal. If I did, someone had it locked down tight. No.
Wow.
That was. So I'm always like, now when I'm on AO3 in any fandom, when you're just, wading knee deep through reader inserts everywhere, which is fine. But I certainly, it was definitely not a thing on LiveJournal. And, culture, I don't know where that started. You can probably trace it back to, some fandom where some fans decided it wasn't the done thing, and then it got passed on to other fandoms on LiveJournal. But, yeah.
Oh, that's so amazing to me because Kasey and I were like, huh? Because we started that's how we started writing. We started reader insert. Yeah, and it's just interesting to see how it's, or I think what was the other thing? Well, what's the top and bottom thing case in Wincest that people have I can't remember who they were like.
Dean cannot bottom because it's emasculating and Dean's not the girl, and how dare you have Dean bottom in this fic that you so clearly tagged as bottom Dean Winchester and also Dean Winchester / top X. How dare you, Dean cannot bottom, that is disgusting.
You will find, of course, those vehement top-bottom arguments for every pairing. Actually, Dean bottoming also, a lot of people supported that because they said that he would never want to be in the role of potentially hurting Sam, or, he was, you can unpack the gender politics of this, receptive, he was there to take care of Sam. And I tried to once track how Dean had featured in fic as a top or a bottom with the switch from Wincest to Destiel. So did he top or bottom more in one pairing or the other?
Right.
It's an unanswerable question, but it was. Of course, because it depended on your characterisation of Castiel, which was very different in the earlier years when he was a lot more powerful, character, and so he tended to be topping. But then that switch, someday someone will just pay me a huge amount of money and I can just read every supernatural fic and do lots of graphs and
tables and graphs
and unpack all this. But there even used to be a convention related to topping and bottoming on how you wrote the pairing name, and I can't remember which way it went, but if it was the first, it would be if it's Kirk Spock, it was because it was Kirk topping and Spock bottoming, so the top went first and the bottom. And that was a naming convention for a long time.
Human beings are desperate to categorize things. We just can't cope in a world that isn't pattern recognition. We're like, no, there has to be a system. Fuck. That's great. I love it.
And it's really interesting to see how that persists or changes across fandoms too, because you can't escape that often whoever was influential writers in the early fandom will set the scene for some of those things. Now, it changed. Obviously, there was some very prominent writers in the first, let's say, half of Supernatural, and then, a lot of them moved on or whatever, and there were newer writers came up and everything. But, again, I think those sort of fashions and trends are fascinating because people bring stuff from their previous fandoms with them. So there was a lot of wing fic in season 1 of Supernatural. Before we had any creatures with wings, there was a whole lot of fic of Sam and Dean with wings. Now, that had come from other fandoms. I can't even tell you which ones. And, people just would input. Oh, I've got a thing for, writing characters with wings, and wings are sexy, and so let's bring it into my new fandom.
I mean, the people, they do not be wrong. Would that come from Buffy? I've never watched Buffy. Did it? Things of wings in Buffy?
Think so. I mean, I watched Buffy, but I don't remember wings being a big thing.
No.
Yeah.
It could have been touched by an angel. Who knows?
Could be out.
Oh, yeah.
There was one I thought of when you were talking about the magical healing cock the other day. Was the Canadian shack. I don't know if you've heard of that trope.
No. What is that?
It gets called a number of things. It became not really cabin in the woods, but it's basically, it's a bit like the one bed trope. So two characters get trapped in a shack in the woods somewhere, usually snowed in, and of course, being trapped together, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from Due South Fandom, which was set in Canada. And there were actual shacks. But, again, by the time Supernatural started, it was just a fanfic trope that most people wouldn't have known where it came from, and they didn't call it Canadian shack anymore. It just got called cabin in the woods or whatever. So, it's fascinating how those things, they do, like you were talking about with magical healing cock, things change over time. Even like the term in Supernatural, bi bros. Started off as a term that meant you weren't a Sam girl or a Dean girl. You liked both brothers. And then it sort of morphed over time into being sort of a brothers versus Destiel thing. And, like all language, I suppose, it changes with the context, and the meaning of them shifts and changes, and then you get clashes because people are like, that's not what it means. It's like, well, it's in my corner of this fandom,
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're right too, because I think one of the things, like recently, I just realized is not a positive thing, or at least I don't know if it even could be considered positive now, as pro ship. And I didn't know that meant problematic ship. And I was like, well, in my mind, pro ship is like, you're for
support
people shipping, like it's fine.
You're
like ship whatever you want to ship.
pro-choice.
And I'm just like,
and you still get people clashing over that, which seems ridiculous. But,
it's just all ridiculous.
Again, we are nothing but pattern recognition machines with anxiety. That's it. We require only to categorize things and put them in boxes.
But I think it shows too, like if you're not aware whatever a term has meant to you, if you go into another space, you kind of might need to be prepared to expect some sort of not backlash, but like no, that's not what this means. And then are you okay understanding that that's what it means for that group?
And it is one of the things I think we've lost a lot of. Again, but both just with the fandom diaspora, but also not having home bases, we lose context, and so you do get these clashes because people come from different fandom traditions and experiences, and because the algorithm has trained us all into being aggressive and adversarial, when someone says something and uses a term in a different way. The response is often, oh, you're ignorant, or you're willfully being wrong, or whatever, rather than, oh, that's interesting.
I just don't know. I'm learning something
where I
new.
come from over here in my corner of the internet, it means this. What does it mean for you? But also, unless you happen to know that fan lore exists, or you have a resource like the SuperWiki in your fandom, there aren't anywhere you can go to read that, and fan lore's fantastic for going, oh, I can now see how that evolved over time, and, and even that, can't capture the ever-changing nuances of things, but you at least start to get a sense of the fact that these things are shifting all the time. Anyway, we've got away from talking about fanfic again. I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
It's the best. I love it. I feel like I learned so much because I'm like, I'm a fandom baby and I'm a baby. And we'll shut up and be educated.
I've talked to a couple of fangirls who are, I think, closer, maybe like in my Gen X area too. And a lot of people have talked about, and they've gone through lots of different fandoms. One in particular, Incogninja, MJ, she's talked about how like when she got into fandom, she almost had like a mentor, right? Like somebody that like took her under their wing and was like, this is how, like, just so you know, like, here's X, Y, and Z. So it's almost like the orientation part of it, I think, would be so maybe beneficial to a lot of people. Like you said, yeah.
Like, I think Gen Z might be, they might be done for now. The Gen Alphas, the youth, they need a buddy system. Somebody implement an internet buddy system to bring these babies on and go,
well,
okay.
It really was. So a friend of mine from many years ago dubbed it fandom husbandry. And it was the work that needs to be done to make the fandom functional. And a lot of that was things like setting up communities, and we all had a, there used to be a very easy, and there still is to some extent, a blueprint. It was a lot more obvious in the LiveJournal days. It's like, oh, new obsession, everyone. Okay, we need to set up a newsletter. We need to do this. I'm going to set up an icon commit. Like, we all knew, everyone knew sort of what you needed to get things going. But part of that husbandry, if you like, was that system, which was sort of the old fandom guard would take new fans under their wings. And I have a very famous example of when I got embroiled in some high-level fandom wank, and my friends and I were literally getting emails from more experienced and wiser fans about how to manage it and how to get through it, and what we should do. I'm not saying we paid attention to them, but
the thought was there.
What was the wank?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's okay. Very briefly, that's very ridiculous. My very first time meeting fans, where some of us from Australia went to New Zealand and met up with some fans there. Basically, had a hotel suite for the weekend, and we did Lord of the Rings tours and got drunk in hotel rooms. We were met through Supernatural, and as you want to do, we were on our laptops all the time. And on the last night, we were going onto each other's live journals and posting outrageous things, like going onto the Sam girl's journal and going, I no longer love Sam because his hair is not as glorious as it used to, like stupid stuff like
silly
that.
Stuff that you do when you've all had a few too many. Reasonable.
We were making our own purple nurples. It was terrible.
That sounds great. Please,
and
I
then
want a party like
someone
that.
got onto, I think it was my journal, and posted this thing about how we'd been out in the afternoon, and there'd been a herd of draft horses had run down the middle of Wellington and trampled one of our friends to death, and we'd carried her body through the streets, and it was all very tragic. And if you cared about them, please go and like and review their Big Bang fic. It was just, and it was written in the most, bad writing purple prose, and it all blew up because a whole lot of people then took it seriously. And we woke up the next morning. Of course, time differences screw you with these things. And there's like 100 comments going, I can't believe she's dead. And we're like, and half of us were mortified, and the other half were pissing themselves laughing, going, oh. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's so good. I would have been laughing my ass off. Sandra would have been like, no, we have to fix this. And I would be like,
fix
oh,
this
no, we don't. Just let it roll, bro. Just let it roll.
Do you apologise? Do you not apologise? Do you delete the post? Do you leave the post up?
So many questions,
we had these wiser fans come on board and message us going, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z, and, we know you're sensible people, and you know what, when you're in the heat of it, it all seems like your world's collapsing.
Oh, yeah, we've been there. Yeah.
But that was a really good thing. And like, I know that's been mentioned recently that newer fans at the moment come into fandom without any context, without any history. There's nowhere for them to go and have those connections. They've no sense of fandom history. I saw I see people making comments as if, like when I am on TikTok, as if fandom started with TikTok, that like, imagine if they had had TikTok back when Supernatural started. It's like,
do not speak to me of the deep magics, child.
It was 2005, not 1805. So I have to say, you had asked in the questions you sent through, and we might get round to it or not, a question about Jensen and a convention in 2009.
Yeah.
And I went to the wiki and followed links to some reports because, of course, until about 2010, we often didn't get many videos from panels because we were only just starting, smartphones didn't come in until 2006 or 7. We didn't have, people weren't taking panel videos and everything back then. So people wrote long reports of their convention experience, which I love revisiting. We wrote thousands, like every episode, we were all writing recaps, like as if we hadn't all watched the same episode. And I can go back and I look sometimes and it's like, oh my God, 5 days out of 7, I was posting, hundreds of words a day. It's like amazing. And reading that, of course, as well. And then there are all the comments and it's like we were we wrote a lot.
For your because I know you said there's like the theses or like the essays that you write, but did you write any other type of like original fiction before fanfic? Was there anything or like during the fanfic time?
Yes, I had started again probably because I don't know if it's because I've got a scientist background, but I got into writing. So that makes no sense, Jules. Forget the bit about the scientist. I got my start as a freelance writer reviewing queer fiction for a local queer magazine, and so I'd done that for a number of years, and I got into broader journalism in queer newspapers and stuff that were big in the 90s, and then anyway, eventually got round to writing fiction. And so I was writing, original queer fiction, which was a lot of which was porn. I also at one point reviewed gay boy porn.
Okay.
We had a joint pseudonym at the magazine, which was Hand Solo. Terrible pun.
Dean would enjoy that.
Which was fascinating because, like, again, any subculture, because there's a whole lot of, there's tropes, and there were the various different studios and the different stars that you had to know. Like, actually, like writing anything, you had to get to know your material. It wasn't just a matter of going, this one's really good,
right?
And so, I'd been doing that, and then in the I got into doing performance stuff, so I did a lot of stand-up, spoken word and comedy stuff as well.
Oh, neat. Cool. How long did you, do you still do that, or was that like a short
I still do that given the chance. I haven't done any solo shows for a while, but, give me a microphone, a spotlight, I will get up anywhere, anytime. I'm a bit of an attention whore. But I will say the most recent thing I did, which was earlier this year, it was a night, a queer night where we were all half naked, literally, and I read tentacle porn, original.
Okay.
So I was very happy about that, and it got a very good reception. Nice. And I've submitted it. So someone there asked me to submit it to their zine, which is going to be published at some point, so very happy.
So cool.
Yeah.
So yes, I had been writing original fic.
Now, have you ever published anything?
Most of my stuff.
You don't have to call yourself out.
Yeah, you don't have to out yourself. Don't worry about it.
It's yes, I published again in some queer anthologies and magazines. Very famous one called On Our Backs was a big queer sex positive magazine from during the 90s and early 2000s. So it was interesting then to come into, certainly fanfic, which my two big interests, aside from the tentacle porn in fanfic, certainly from a writing point of view, I either write moody character pieces or porn. It's like, I'm not
Yep.
really good. I'm not really good on plot, so I usually have very introspective character pieces, which are sort of an extension of my non-fiction, which is, why is Dean like this, or that sort of that, but in fic form, or porn, or just straight porn.
That's great. That's awesome. Having those two.
Probably a lot. And look, I'm not a prolific fic writer. I never was. And a lot of my fic is anonymous because it was on the kink meme. So
okay. Gotcha.
Not because I would be ashamed. It's just that's the way the kink meme is set up.
Yeah, I think this is a few years back. I remember we chatted with Ashtray Thief and Amy, I think Dug in Deep Hot Sauce is what she went by.
Yes.
But like the SPN Masquerade, like I think which I didn't know. I didn't understand what that was. I was like, can you explain what a kink meme is? And I was like, oh, okay, I got it now. So I was like, those are the
Well, at least in the Masquerade you could unmask yourself.
You could unmask. But I think most of them were anonymous for, like you said, that reason, right? Like, if you didn't want to, you didn't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. And there is a thing to write. I mean, you could say we're all anonymous on LiveJournal because none of us were using our real names. I often know people for years, and I still know people who I don't actually know their real name.
Right.
Very, very different. But within that, you could also be totally anonymous. So there's a certain freedom to that as well.
Yeah. So when it came to writing SPN stuff, like, what was the first thing you wrote about Supernatural? Was it a character thing? Was it porn? Do you remember?
I'd have to go back and find the very first one, but I think it was a combination of both.
Okay.
And it was Dean fucking a waitress but having mummy issues.
Gotcha.
So it was,
I know you're not going to make me out myself on this podcast, Jules. Sorry, can I get a link to that, please? Fuck. Which is a bit feral for Dean Winchester's mummy issues. I will not apologise.
So, I think that might have been, and certainly, and I don't know how much it's changed. Again, as the fandom got big, it was very hard to keep a handle on things. But in the early days, people wrote across a variety. Like most people would write, because in the early days it was Wincest or what we call Gen Fic, so no pairings, or het. And there was sort of, there was the very popular writers would write all of those. So the Slash usually got the most readership, but there was no sort of stigma attached to writing, different genres. I think things ossified over time. I think the sort of it became less common for people to write broadly, and often that was because they found their audience. And as the fandom got bigger, you didn't, if you found an audience for your, Dean Cass Regency fic, then you wrote that all the time because that's what people were enjoying, and that's what you enjoyed writing.
And I would imagine too, because I mean, because I think this goes along with people who do publish, fiction, or like once you get into a certain genre, people, like you said, maybe some people won't go along with the ride in another territory. They're like, well, no, I know you for this. This is what you write. Why are you writing something else?
Absolutely. And look, even in fanfic, you want readers. And I remember it was also a thing back in the early days because there was people who didn't want to read Wincest. But people would publish fics with the same story with or without Wincest in it. So you would publish a Gen version, and then you would publish the Wincest version, which might just be 2 paragraphs of fucking in the middle of it.
Right.
And the rest of it reads exactly the same because, but you wanted to get both audiences, which I thought was a bit cheeky.
Circle back on that, though. So would people use the same username and just do a different version? And that wasn't frowned upon by somebody that say was very much like, no, why are you doing this with these brothers? Like that.
The more common thing. Oh no, because Wincest was like That was it.
That was the normal shit.
See, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, it's so odd now that it's like how things have changed in a lot of different ways. But yes, go on.
Well, I always say you can tell how unbothered people were by it by the fact that we chose the pairing name as Wincest. You could have called it Sam and Dean and it didn't put the incest in your face. But no, we went straight for Wincest. Like, no one was. It was like either it was going to be a thing or not, and there was sort of an acceptance of. And again, the way things were set up, if you didn't want anything to do with it, you could live your fandom life and not see it. You wouldn't be going into those fic communities, or you would be on a message board that was Wincest free or whatever. But it was a bit more sort of live and let live. The other thing that people used to tag things with was Wincest if you squint.
I've seen that.
Which was sort of like, okay, this is a fic with, or pre-slash was another common term. So that was common across fandoms, pre-slash. So basically it meant there's absolutely no, basically it meant it's like the TV show, whatever fandom you were in, you can, it's like you're watching the TV show. So there's absolutely no sex or romance in this. But if you've got it in your head, if you've got Wincest goggles on, you can read the fic through that lens. So again, it was giving people, it was capturing your widest audience. And, people could read that and they weren't reading, for example, Wincest, or they could read it and go, oh, yes, and then I know what happened next. They just didn't write that bit.
Well, that's fascinating to me.
That sounds so nice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just the ability to like let people decide, and then you make a choice, and it's not, nobody has to.
Think back to a better time when adults were allowed to make their own decisions. Without somebody coming along and going, you are naughty children and you are not allowed porn.
We were dealt a peculiar hand with Supernatural, and I know Killer mentioned it in her interview, because at the time RPF was, as it still is, but even more so at the time, a lot of people thought RPF was very morally dubious and frowned upon.
Yeah.
But the choice in Supernatural was either it was Jared and Jensen fucking or it was Sam and Dean. That was your choice. And that's where the term RPF was the high moral ground came from. That's how fucked up our fandom was. And that's why we had, so much, a lot of RPF, because it's like, Jared and Jensen aren't related. I can do them. So, we were hard pressed. That's all we had until our dear Angel came along. So.
Yeah, we actually just, and I think it's gonna come out in like maybe June, but. Yeah, we finally did we went back to our roots and did like a canon fodder where we started talking about RPF and J2 in particular, and how, I think initially for me going into it, it just seems so weird that your brain just can't do that little switch of being like, well, no, it's an AU, like a J2 AU, and what that means, as opposed to taking RPF at its word, real person fiction, which really doesn't make any sense anyway when you go through it. No, these two things can't all be together at the same time. So being able to distinguish, a character that you create based off of someone is just like a Sam and Dean AU or something like that. So being able to,
I always say it's just like you're casting a movie with these actors.
Yeah.
So in any movie where they're not playing Jared, and Jared isn't Jared in Walker, he's Walker.
Yeah.
And that's what RPF Fic's like. It's a bit different in some fandoms, particularly Fandom, where they are themselves.
I think that's where I was having that, because I can't
to be less.
Yeah, because it's you're along with the crew or the band. So that was different.
That was the thing though. I was in Fandom. That was the draw of it, that you could live out this fantasy of going on the road with your favorite rock star kind of thing. That was the vibe, especially for the reader insert stuff.
Well, and that's where, and I think that's probably partly why reader insert in fandoms like Supernatural got frowned on, because again, it's a bit of snobbery about differences between different genres of fandom, if you like, as well.
Yeah, that's so wild to me. But yeah, like it took me a while to figure that out. I'm like, oh, I just like got it because I started reading some really great writers writing AU J2, and I was like, oh, I get it now. Like but for a long time I was like, no, because I remember reading a lot of RPF that literally it was like the actors, and so I don't think I figured out that distinction, until way too long. Usually takes me a while to get on board with all these other things. But yeah, I found that to be an interesting part of it as well, and how that's kind of changed. Yeah. Are there, when you write, because I know you said you've got like character studies, porn, and sometimes they meet in the middle, but are there certain tropes that you kind of like to write in your, like, do you like, I don't know, friends into lovers or different things? Like, is there certain like a trope that you?
As I said, I'm not very big. I'm not very big on plotting, so not a lot of plot happens in any of my stories. It's usually that sort of moment. So one scene, or again, tends to be very introspective. And a lot of my, I don't know what you'd call it. Some of my stories are more experimental. I don't know what the literary term is, but I could link you to a couple of them where it's more just playing with language. It could be of fragments where for example, there's one I remember I was exploring sort of Sam and Dean as becoming urban legends themselves. So I was playing with that idea, sort of hard to describe. And I also like fucking with the readers. So both in my original stories and fanfic, I like to do things that discomfort the readers. So like
a little unreliable narrator, maybe a little bit of that.
Oh,
like
and transgressing things, like, in a story which is absolutely not Wincest, there might be a reason why Sam and Dean need to kiss, so or gender fuckery or things like that. So I actually wrote here you go, here's one from the archives. Before we knew what demons were in the show, which we didn't know what demons were until season 3. That's when we found out that they were humans corrupted in hell. I played with the idea that they didn't have gender. So I wrote a whole fic using neo-pronouns for the demon.
Okay.
I obviously then became non-canonical, but I also refer back to that when people often, talk about changing roles of gender and that in fanfic. It's like, well, I wrote a fic with neo-pronouns in 2007.
I gotta ask about tentacle porn because you said you've actually written and like you did stuff.
Sandra's gonna hold you hostage until you tell her about this tentacle porn, bro.
So like, what was the like? I don't know. How did that come about? Like like what in your brain? Because
I would think the appeal of tentacles for sexual pleasure is pretty obvious. I will trace it back, though. I don't know if you've read the book A Wrinkle in Time.
I've heard of it, but I've never read it.
Heard of it.
Okay, it was made into a movie a few years ago. Which omitted this character. So there's a character. It's it's almost like a multi-universe story, and these kids go on this adventure. And at one point, they are taken in by this alien creature called. One of whom is called Aunt Beast, who is covered in they're described as tentacles. They're not called tentacles. And they're actually a source of comfort in the story. But I read that when I was very young. So I put down my love of prehensile sensory appendages to that story. Maybe that's why I always found penises very disappointing. So sorry, people with penis. You're no tentacle. And I also like the transgressive. So, tentacles are sort of, they are sort of thing people can imagine, as they have for many millennia. Of
like with different animes and different things like that. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, and they can be big and small, and they've got suckers on them, and they can be attached to people, or they can be attached to creatures, and many things can happen with them. So yes,
important question, because me and my friend are both very much into the Tom Hardy Venom movies, not the comic.
Oh, absolutely! Oh my God!
Now she is of the opinion. She is of the opinion that I am of the opinion that one tentacle is absolutely fine. You can make it as big or as long or as wide, and you can put little fancy things on the shapes on the outside of it, whatever you want. But I am of the opinion that one tentacle is, like, if dick shape wasn't good, dick shapes wouldn't be that shape, And she is of the opinion that is not monster fuckery enough, and you need multiple smaller tentacles.
Oh, why would you settle for one? I mean, who doesn't want tentacles all over your body at once? I mean,
if you could just imagine, like, when you crack an egg and you get one of those little things to suck the yolk out of the egg white. If you could just imagine that everything below my stomach just went when you said that, because multiples, that changes it from yes, fun sexy experience to there are things in me, get out.
Well, they don't all have to be inside you at once. And if you've ever had anyone massage you, I mean, 2 hands is really good. Just imagine a few more all over your body.
Yeah. On the body is okay. It's just the inside. Just really don't like that.
Again, to each their own. Some of us might like.
Absolutely, I'm not yucking anybody's yum. I was just like, as a certified, well, I'm not going to call you a certified monster fucker, but clearly you have enthusiastic opinions about tentacles. Like, where do you draw the line? Do you draw the line on one that is of malleable shape or many?
Oh, no, definitely, more tentacles the better.
I was going to ask, did you get really like, oh gosh, when the episode with, I think it was called The Thing, when Dean is like on
you have no idea. There was actually an earlier episode which it was back in season 6 when Samuel Campbell takes Sam and Dean. It's got them captive. Anyway, there was meant to be a tentacle monster in that episode. I think Ben Edlund might have written it. Okay. And I was devastated when I found out they changed it. And I had to wait another 5 seasons to get my tentacles. And I was very, very happy. Absolutely. I could have done. I think Supernatural did not lean into the tentacles as much as it could have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Dean, might have actually been a little disappointed by it as well. Like, it was like, I thought I was going to get. Yeah,
I think. According to all the fic I've read, all the characters would love a lot more tentacles.
Oh gosh. I know you'd read you mentioned something about Omegaverse too. And how?
Oh, only that I was there when it was born.
Yeah,
I feel very fondly both fondly and also it was a bit like seeing the birth of a monster.
Yeah, and was that around
it took over fandom?
Yeah, was it 2008-ish, or was that earlier than that you can remember when that sort of came out?
It was. I think the fic was it started officially, if you like, on the anonymous kink meme. Mm-hmm. Although people report it had popped up in previous fandoms going back to Star Trek Next Generation, I think.
Okay.
The fan lore article says.
Mm-hmm.
And there'd been I actually did a Venn diagram at some point of the sort of perfect storm that's set up to ready the fandom, if you like, for the Omegaverse. There'd been, of course, we always had, there was always some sort of, dominant submission sort of, fix around. There was a small small but enthusiastic bestiality fic community in Supernatural, which obviously ties in with a lot of humiliation stuff. And, occasionally there was sort of, Sam or whoever getting attacked by a Wendigo or a werewolf or something like that.
Yeah.
And the, this morphing into this sort of people with animal traits was sort of a mashup of all those things. And interestingly, a lot of very early, what we now call Omegaverse stuff, played a lot more on the humiliation aspect. So, getting fucked by, the alpha was often both a dominance and submission thing, but also a humiliation thing as well. So that drifted away as, it became more of a trope embedded in, your fluffiest rom-com fic, just happened to use, the alpha omega traits or whatever. So it was, and I think the thing that made it spread was both the existence of the archive. So once some, Omegaverse fics got posted on there, other fandom, people could see them. And it was at the same time that Teen Wolf was really big. So they had a lot, of course, of werewolf fic. So they were just like, they were ripe for Omegaverse stuff. And I think it really, and it still does, it encapsulates a lot of the things that people like in fic in sort of one package. So you can get that, dominance and submission. You can get that, oh my God, I can't control my sex drive, mating urge or whatever you want to call it. Hierarchical gender roles, but we've got an excuse for them now. all that. So, it was amazing to see something that sort of got birthed, and then suddenly, within a couple of years felt like you were tripping over it wherever you, it was every fandom had some of it at least.
I think, Supernatural's like claim, that's a big claim for Supernatural, right? Like we kind of like started.
Jensen was the original Omega, yes, and we're never going to let him forget it. But I think that's wonderful. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about fanfic is it keeps inventing new genres and new tropes, and I love that because there aren't the sort of restrictions around writing form that you get in traditional publishing that allows you to play and come up with these things. And, of course, now you can buy, people professional, at least self-publish, Omega fics and, monster fucking is huge.
It's becoming a huge thing with the book talk, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Book talk girlies. Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, back in like when I started self-publishing and I was looking into things, like there was a lot of the I think I even mentioned this to Kasey. Like I remember reading a transformation, kind of like Omega, right? Whereas like one woman was going to be, I guess like the Omega to alphas, and I swear that came from Sam and Dean, because it was just like, the way it was fashioned or built, I was like, I could see this being like somebody's entryway into like this being a thing. So yeah, how one thing affects something else and then it becomes quote unquote mainstream, in a way is so amazing to me. That bears, mermaids, dolphins, like anything you could think of, and people are publishing all of that fantasy stuff and doing the things with it now.
And absolutely good on them. I'm not a book talk person, mostly because I don't do TikTok. But like I've read my fair share of romantasy, but my absolute true and undying love for book talk comes from the fact that straight white men hate it. That's why I like it. They're like, it's just porn. Your wife is listening to porn. Oh, as opposed to the billion-dollar industry that you've been jacking off to your entire life. Yeah, no. Please continue with your puritanical views.
We get to craft ours exactly to our finely tuned kink, and I love that. And I have to say, as someone who, you know, had written original porn and reviewed porn and everything, you know, the fanfic community, I continually amazed at kinks I've found that I never knew I had.
Yeah.
That's the joy of writing and reading, I think, is just you constantly get to go, oh, I didn't know that was a thing, but it is now.
It is now, yeah. I mean, I think I always say Dean is a reason I've come across realizing a lot of kinks that I didn't realize I had. I kind of blame it on him as a character also, just in general. I find that really, and even like with Omegaverse, is there like a certain, have you read a lot of Omegaverse? Do you like it yourself? Like, do you like the world building about it more? Because I know you said you don't really plot, but like, is that because
the one thing that restricts some of my fanfic reading is I'm not a romance girl. So again, as Omegaverse became embedded in just what everyone was doing, and that's why I didn't read I didn't read any RPF to start with in Supernatural fandom, not because I had a moral obligation. It's just that most RPF is a romance. And,
right. Yeah.
You know, love that for other people, but it's just, you know, I'll take romance if it's embedded in something else, but not as a genre, not the romance genre as we know it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I don't care what people's genitals look like when they're you know, hunting monsters or fighting space battles. I think. Yeah, so yes, as long as it's a story I like, I don't really care if it's whether it has the Omegaverse traits in it or not. I can find, to be honest, I can find them a bit, trying to work out a way to say this without sounding terribly judgmental. Sometimes I can find that they feel a bit regressive in their gender roles.
Okay.
No matter what gender of the people are, that there's some underlying not only gender roles but power roles. We can go back to the top bottom thing. Top bottom is something that got adopted by fandom, usually written by people who were not involved in that dynamic themselves, and it became a shorthand for the bottom was the receptive submissive partner generally. And so it became a bit of a lazy shorthand for that, and that's again not my understanding or experience of those sort of roles. And so less my kink in that way.
Do you have time to read much anymore? Do you still read a lot of fan fiction, or are you too busy doing a lot of other things?
Look, not as much as I did at, you know, the same with writing fanfic. Look, as I got into certainly working on the SuperWiki and also writing more non-fiction stuff about fandom, I stopped writing as much fanfic and read less. I still read it all the time though, and I, you know, that's the first thing I do when I fall into a new fandom. And I've, you know, like in the last week, I can tell you I've read Interview with a Vampire, The Pit, and Hacks fanfic. So you know, haven't read any Supernatural maybe for a couple of months.
Right.
But you know, that's always where I want to go to find out what amazing things fandom's coming up to between the episodes of whatever show I'm watching. It was amazing to see, like The Pit, like things like Heated Rivalry obviously hugely exploded with fanfic, but that's sort of understandable. But something like The Pit to have a huge fanfic around it was, in a way, you understand it because you're not getting it on the show, so people created their own, which is what we do with fanfic, you know. It's filling in those gaps, and it was delightful to find. And, of course, The Pit has got a lot of queer characters in it. You know, the one thing I never got out of Supernatural fandom was much femme-slash, so that was always
you have to have female characters live.
Well, they don't need to live for you to write them in fanfic, but they were very much. It was never a big genre. Well, it's not a big genre in most, except for properties that have got a lot of queer female characters in it. So or just women in it. So things like even Hacks, but the Pit obviously having canonical queer women in it. You get more. Interview with a Vampire is, until this season maybe, is mainly slash obvious male slash obviously. So
that's great.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I like hearing that too. That other stories get people inspired to just write, and that like of course we focus more on supernatural and stuff, but Kasey's talked about other things that have gotten their interest in maybe like doing some stories and stuff here and there, but it's nice to. I think one of our friends, BJ, I think really loves that show as well, The Pit, and I'm suspecting she's probably going to write something amazing. At some point, it's just going to come out that she's written something.
It's funny, it's like fandoms. You never know what you're going to fall into. You never know what show's going to. Like I haven't published it yet, but I've written a Pit fanfic. You never know you never know where the muse is going to strike you, and you never know what your next show. What are you two? Do you have other fandoms at the moment? Are you seeing other fandoms?
No,
Are you in a fandom, Jules?
I'm
always flirting.
One. Yeah,
I flirt with other fandoms, but I don't commit. So I've had a bit of a dalliance with Venom. I've been in sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say in because I don't write for it, but I keep a close eye on Baggins Shield from The Hobbit. Used to be huge Lord of the Rings. Well, I still am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but used to be huge into Lord of the Rings fanfic when I was younger. Some D&D stuff I'm hearing about as well, like D&D players and characters and stuff. But no, I haven't committed to another fandom. I just flirt with them across the bar.
I feel like I'd have to actually have a talk with Supernatural if I was going to move on to another fandom. I almost feel like
the thing is, to be able to move on to another fandom, you'd have to watch something other than Supernatural.
I do watch other stuff, but most of the stuff I tend to watch has Jensen in it, or because I mean, if
of the boys, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
If you've listened to any of our other episodes, Jules, I think for me, this is such a comfort place for me, Supernatural. That
absolutely.
I
suppose I feel my my loyalty can't be judged because I still run the SuperWiki, and I do listen to a number of supernatural podcasts, and I do read fic. But I can't help it. There's so many gorgeous, sexy other stories out there.
Yeah,
but I have not fallen for any of them the way I fell for Supernatural. And look, part of that was the fandom, and I don't know that it's the same anymore, that I would be engulfed so much. I might. And
you
also
kind of watched this one grow from like a baby to where it is now. I don't know that you'd get that.
Yes, and also it's not the same when you get 8 episodes 2 years apart.
It's very
no, absolutely not. And like we talked about earlier on, being there on sort of the ground floor, and you saw all the changes and the relocations and how it all moved and changed, whereas we're not doing that so much anymore. So you kind of, everything's sort of already established. Nothing new under the sun, I guess.
Yeah, but I love seeing, when I get into a new show and either finding the fandom that's there or seeing it bubble up as well. And I just think something, that fandom energy is cracked to me, like the amazing way that the show's had 6 episodes and people are publishing fic anthologies and glossy art books and raising money for charity. Like those backbones of fandom are still there, and people do it even when they've only got 6 episodes. I'm just like, oh baby, I wish you were living in the day where you got 23 episodes of your show.
Yeah.
were so well fed and we didn't appreciate it. We were like, oh, my God, I have to wait 4 months for a new season. Like, that May to September.
Yeah, Jensen had said something recently. I think it was at JibCon to like Jared. I think I remember watching a clip, and he's like, "Yeah, remember when you filmed an episode and they came out like 3 or 4 weeks later instead of like a year and some change later?" Because they were talking about how, I think it'd been a year since they had like actually filmed the episode that Jared and Misha had been on with the boys.
Absolutely,
and it was just like,
I don't know what that must be like.
Yeah.
Like, for the actors, like obviously there's always, some time lag, but it must be so weird to like, Jensen has, finished filming Vought Rising in March and it's going to come out next year sometime.
Yeah.
Like and then he'll have to go and do publicity for it and everything, and it's like, my God, like he could have done a number of projects in between, and it was 18 months ago, and it's a very strange, it's a strange way, and the writing as well. Like, I think there was something glorious about how the writing would develop during a season of 23 episodes, and for better and worse, because now you don't get that chance to go, oh, that character's really popping, let's keep them around for a while, because if you've got 8 episodes and you've written them all and then you film them all, you don't have that chance if you've only had that character written in for 1 episode. If you get another season, like Jensen in, The Boys maybe, then you can bring them back. But, I just think, some of the great characters that we all love, like, Spike in Buffy was a classic who was only meant to be there for a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And Cass was an obvious other one, even Crowley in our show.
Yeah.
Having the chance to go, that actor, that character, they're popping, let's bring them back this season again or keep them on. And I just think some of that magic, you don't get a chance to take advantage of those happy accidents or
you don't get that immediate feedback from your community
you
as
don't
well.
get the feedback.
So, and I think that creates a disconnect. 'Cause, I mean, there's a lot of shows I do like watching, but like you're saying, if it's going to be a year and a half in between, I lose that interest and maybe I don't go back to it again, or I need a recap or a refresher about what happened,
the
season 5 of a
TV show. Season 5 of a TV show, and suddenly I've got to watch the first 4 seasons and the 2 spin-off seasons before I can watch it because I can't remember what happened. And also, I wasn't counting on having to rewatch the spin-off seasons, and then I saw the trailer and it's like, oh no, what happened in that is relevant.
Yeah.
Cool. Add that to my plate, shall I?
Jules, there was one story that I made a note of it. This is way back too. Like, Kasey and I and a friend had come up with like iWin, which was like a tech, like, you could have your own like Winchester robot and stuff like that,
like a clone.
And I saw that like you had done something way back in like 2009 where you did this really great thing of you wrote like it was Jensen 2.0, and you did this tech support help thing and stuff like that. Like, was there something in particular that like made you decide to write that one? Was there anything that like inspired you?
There was, and there were 2 things. I think I read there was either a meme or a short story somewhere about, it's not an original idea about having the robot girlfriend or boyfriend wanting to upgrade their wear. And early 2009 there was a convention in Las Vegas. Now, at this point, Jensen and Jared had only done half a dozen supernatural conventions, a couple of Comic-Cons. And I went back and read my notes on my author's note on the fic, and it had been inspired because at that convention I wasn't there in person. I was reading reports and watching a couple of videos that turned out. But Jensen, up until then, had been obviously, very entertaining at conventions, but there was something at that convention where he just seemed really loose and funny, and he was dancing. One thing, so I feel that in the early days, Jensen was and Jared. And Jared is a lot more effusive and an extrovert anyway. But the boy, Jared and Jensen were very, proper's not quite the right word. No one knew what conventions were like, and they hadn't done the Comic-Con type conventions either. And so getting up and being asked questions, they very much took that seriously, again, isn't quite the right word, because they were always funny and entertaining. But if someone asked them a question, they answered it. And you can go back and watch those first few conventions, and people will ask them things and they will address that question. I think that was very much how it was a Q&A. And then as over time, of course, we all got to know each other, and I think they got more relaxed, and, we got, I don't know if our questions ever got any better, but but also when Misha started doing cons, and this isn't early 2009, it really didn't show with him until probably mid 2009. But he had a different style, and he was a lot more playful, and so someone would ask him, in episode 5 when Castiel says whatever, and then he would go and tell a totally different story in response. And I think Jules's theory here, along with doing more conventions, that Jared and Jensen started to realise that you could be entertaining and it didn't have to feel like a press interview. And you often see that at so I've been to Comic-Con in San Diego a number of times, and from the cast of shows who don't do conventions regularly, they treat those panels, it's like a press conference. People ask questions and you answer them, whereas you can tell, certainly the Supernatural cast, and certainly by, certainly 2012 or 13, it had become a whole, theatrical performance, and everyone was having a lot of fun with it. But it was at the 2009 one in LA that I particularly felt that, and I went back and read someone's account of the various panels and things, and it just felt like there was some silly questions got asked. People were in a good mood, and again, just things came together that meant that Jensen loosened up, and that inspired me to write a fic where he got his software upgrade into the better boyfriend model.
I appreciated the fic immensely, because I feel like when we were talking about how, like, the newer, like a newer fan who thinks, oh, this is like the first time everybody's ever come up with this. It's like, no, many people have come up with this idea so often in the past. It's just
nothing
the way
new
they
under
come
the
out
sun, is there?
Nothing new under the sun, but just the
There's
way
nothing
it's
new under the sun, but there's always your version, which is always going to be different than my version. And that's the wonderful thing about fanfic, because, you can say, well, a romance story is a romance story. There's a meet cute, they fall in love, something gets in the way, they get back together, and then they live happily ever after. But how many trillions of versions of that have been written that are incredibly satisfying and wonderful? I mean, you could say the same with any genre. And
it's all in how you tell the story. I say this to one of my friends who has been working on something huge, like under wraps for ages now, and every so often she'll pop up and she'll be like, I read this and it's the same as this and there's nothing new under the sun. And I'm like, well, no, but it's in how you tell it. It's your version, and that's the beauty of it. That's
absolutely. And at least we're lucky with fanfic that we can just publish it anyway. We're not going to a professional publisher who's going to go, oh no, we don't want any more of those this year.
The trends,
Or even worse, when I follow a lot of people on film Twitter and, screenwriters who it's like, the hardships they go through trying to get things into development, and it's like, very, very difficult at the best of times. And even the other day I was reading someone going, there's nothing better than opening up, Twitter and finding a link to an article on Variety about a movie that's just got funded that's got the exact same plot of the one I'm writing,
Yeah.
So, of course, then
Dang
your
it.
odds of getting funded to, for yours are a lot more decreased. So, fanfic being divorced from capitalism, makes it so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because I'm going to let Kate, I think we asked you one of our secret questions, but I honestly don't remember. But we've got a question from Kasey, but I wanted to ask one more thing because I know you haven't read maybe like some recent SPN fanfic, but do you have any like favorite SPN fanfic authors that you could shout out that you think like, maybe for somebody who hasn't read stuff from like way back in the LiveJournal vaults and stuff, maybe that.
Oh, yes. I certainly can. Off the top of my head, let's see. She says off the top of her head. Gekazetsu, and I'll send you the spelling of that.
Thank you.
She wrote one of my favourite. Apocafic was a big thing back in the day. I don't think that's a term that's used anymore, but it was basically any post-apocalyptic fiction. And she wrote one where Sam and Dean wake up and they're the last people on Earth.
I think I've read this one.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so last outpost of all that is.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I'm aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing piece of the world building in terms of her actual research and technical work around what would happen if everyone on Earth disappeared.
Yeah.
What happens to power plants? What happens to all the animals? Like a whole lot of stuff. And it's a wonderful Sam and Dean. And she also did one of my favourite crack fic, if you like, which were Sam's drunken letters to Stephen King.
I love that.
Basically, the idea was every time Sam would get drunk, he'd write to Stephen King about one of his books and what he got wrong, because Sam knows the law, the real law. And funnily enough, her letter about it and Sam being afraid of clowns predated clowns on the show.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Oh, that sounds
I'm
great.
trying to think who else? Poison Taster.
Can you send us these links, please? Because I need that one.
I will. Poison Taster had a very a big so it's a sort of a really AURPF called A Kept Boy. There used to be, I don't know if it happens so much anymore, people would write fics and open the universe to other writers so that, you would establish a world in whatever it was and then you'd write your stories, but then other people could write stories set in that world.
Okay.
I don't know that happens so much anymore, but it was, a shared universe. And so the author would say, hey, if anyone wants to come and play in my sandbox, feel free.
Neat.
And so you would often then grow, that world would grow out with other characters and that. I have to mention, just because I think are you both Sam girls?
I'm a Sam mortal.
I'm a Dean girl. I'm a Dean girl.
Well, this is Luminosity, who's very well known fan vidder from the back then in many fandoms, but she did a wonderful one at the end of season 3 of Sam going to hell to rescue Dean, and it's you can look her up on YouTube, and it's an epic vid. She also, just to tell you how epic she is, back in Buffy fandom, she did a really well-known video called Scooby Road, which was a Buffy video, and it was set to the entirety of the Beatles' Abbey Road album.
Oh, okay.
So it's a 43-minute long video about Buffy.
Wow.
Incredible work.
Okay.
She's been like featured in New York Times and a whole lot of stuff.
Oh,
But her supernatural stuff was amazing.
Okay.
But yes, if I think of any other fantastic links off the top of my head, sorry, I will drop them to you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And look, you can find a lot of people did, move their LiveJournal fics over to archive when it started, so you will find those there as well. There is a couple of pages. We decided early on the Supernatural Wiki we weren't going to even early on list, every fanfic that was written or anything. But we did do, because people were keen on what we call crack fic, and we did. So there's a page of crack fic which is on the wiki, which has got some links to early fic. So there's some body swap, there's quite a bit of gender swap, mpreg, cross-dressing, time travel, wing fic, lot of wing fic, as I said, animal transformation, tentacle fic, werewolf, vampire, fourth wall breaking, and really, really weird stuff that has got no classification at all. So that's I'll give you the link to that, because Dina's turned into a rubber duck. I remember that one. Sam is a radish. Jared and Jensen are Care Bears.
Oh, do they love hugs?
Oh my gosh, that's too cute. Oh, I want to read that one. I want to see what their names are and everything, and like what their. Oh, that's so cute. I gotta read that one.
Impala crack. That was a subgenre I was into. So various ones with either the boys fucking the Impala fucking other cars, pregnant Impala. So yes, we do have, if people want to dive into some old school weird shit,
that sounds like a fun place to play around in and see what's up. Oh gosh, that's amazing. Kasey, good. Let you ask your question.
Please.
I don't remember if you have. Kasey.
I will ask both of them just because I also don't remember.
Yeah.
So sorry, only one of them's on the sheet, but surprise. So first of all, if you'd like to share, like it's not a problem if you don't. But how did you come up with your username? So we'll take Missyjack for this one. Where'd you come up with
Missyjack. I'm a butch dyke with a drag queen rising, so I always like things that mush up gender things.
Yes.
So Missy was, I don't know where Missy came from, but Jack came from Jack Twisted. I did a drag king character called Jack Twisted, who was a play on Jack Twist, the Jake Gyllenhaal character from Brokeback Mountain. I played anyway. So Jack Twisted was my drag king, one of my drag king characters. So I took Jack from that and Missy and mushed them up together.
That's fabulous. Fabulous. I very much wish that we lived closer, because I think we would have a lot of fun. We've led a very interesting life, and I wish to know all of the details. That's amazing. Alrighty, and the other question, and like I said, it's not on the sheet, but don't worry about it, because nothing to do with Supernatural or the wiki or fandom or anything else. But adults don't ask other adults this question enough, so I am on a one mortal mission to change that. So, Jules, what is your favourite dinosaur?
Oh, God.
I
feel a need to name an Australian one.
Yeah.
I am actually the one that comes to mind is hilariously. I'm just googling it now because it's you are aware of our airline called Qantas, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There is a dinosaur which is a small. Green, sort of biped. Think mini T-Rex. Mini T-Rex, quite small, called Quantosaurus intrepidus.
That's quite a mouthful.
So I always thought.
Oh, look at
Which I-
it though. Oh, it's
you looking-
lovely.
Yes, it's very cute, and it lived in my part of the world.
Oh, that's
So
lovely.
there you go. And I think we've got might have at my local museum. We've got some of the skeleton anyway. So there you go, Quantosaurus intrepidus. What a cool name.
That is amazing. I
Probably
love
still
that.
get cheap airfares, but anyway.
Oh no, it's really cute. It's got the little T-Rex hands, the little grabbies. Oh, that's super cute. I'd never heard of that one before, so thank you very much.
Jules, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming
Thank
by
you for having
again.
me back.
Thank you for
I always love
coming.
talking about supernatural.
Yeah.
It is still my main love, even though
Still your baby.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, just like following up too, like if somebody's like, not that you maybe like necessarily write so much in the supernatural world, but if somebody's thinking about writing something fanficky for the first time, like what piece of advice would you give them if they're a little hesitant and they don't maybe like know what to start or feel like maybe everything else under the sun has already been written? Like, what would you tell them?
I think I'd go back to say no, it hasn't. Like no one's written your version of a story.
Mm-hmm.
And even with, let's say, supernatural, everyone's got their own vision of the characters. Like we connect with them all in a slightly different way because no one's had your life experience. So you'll connect with, different things about them. And there'll be different things that interest you or make you laugh or make you cry or turn you on or whatever it is. And again, take advantage of the fact that fanfic doesn't have those requirements. This is not a school essay. It's not a submission to a publisher. This is something you're writing, and if you put it out there, someone else will enjoy it. That goes without a doubt. Someone else will read it and go, I really like that. So I think it's getting over that worry of, what are people going to think? Is anyone going to like it? Is it any good or whatever? Just put it out there. And again, it doesn't have to be any length at all. I don't know if it's a term that's used much, but we used to write drabbles, which are 100 words. You can write 100 words.
Yeah.
The test can be, can you write exactly 100 words? not about 100 words, but, sit down and go, here's 100 words about Sam Winchester or Dean Winchester or, my heart, John Winchester. And just do that. Right? It's free. Like you can create something.
Yeah.
Fight against the algorithm and the machine. The clankers are coming for us. The slot is over.
Love that.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
I went to a play a couple of nights ago, which was sort of fanfic adjacent, actually. It was about 3 schoolgirls writing vampire erotica to win a competition. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't actually enjoy it very much. But the thing is, these days, anything I like, I go to a lot of theatre. It's like I almost don't care because all these people have got together and created something real,
right?
And someone's written it and acted it and directed it and made the sets for it and all that, and then we've gone along as an audience and experienced it together. And I am vehemently anti-AI and that live performance. So anything you create yourself, you're putting something into the universe that didn't exist before. That's entirely unique, entirely yours. And, people who snowflake, stardust, whatever, it's so unique that what you can do. And I think that's why, there are, however million stories there are on the archive. And, Wattpad's got another trillion million stories on it. And it's like, how special. And I think that's why I will always fight for, fandom and fanfic, because no one's telling you, oh, that's not selling this year, or, that's not what the public want to, go to the cinema for or see in their bookshop or whatever. You write your fanfic and no one can take that away from you. And I think and it's free. And no one's going to pay you for it. You're going to do it for the love of it. You're going to do it because you want to create something. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I know we all need to eat and put a roof over our heads, but
But you need that escape. You need that makes us
something.
human. Like, like outside of just survival. Yeah.
And it doesn't need to go anywhere. It doesn't need to be, I get annoyed when people talk about it as like a training ground for writing or whatever. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I haven't got any better at writing original fic by writing fanfic. It doesn't matter. Like it just is something that gives you pleasure, and if you don't want to post it, don't.
Yeah.
If you are worried about it, just write it for yourself. And you'll look back on it. Oh, yeah, I look back on stuff now. I can barely remember how I wrote it. And I look at some of it. I'm like, oh, my God, that's terrible. And I look at some of it and I think, oh, my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you ever write that?
Yeah.
And I think when you're writing about things you're passionate about too, it shows through. That's why we get so much great fanfic.
Yeah.
And that's why AI will never take the place of fanfic, because it's not going to be fueled by the obsession that we have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
And we won't be using it to work out the things that we should be working out in therapy. So
yeah.
Anyway, so sorry. Hey, thank you for coming to my TED talk about why fanfic.
I love it.
We can overcome solve a lot of things. Well, if not solve them, but yeah, it is such a I think a refuge for creativity, and I will fight. The archive is a great, amazing thing, and it's not perfect. It has flaws in many ways, but my God, there are hundreds of millions of words on there that are made by people, and I'm worried about, people are going to use ChatGPT to write fanfic. Of course they will. People have plagiarised fanfic since we started. People are going to do it to get the kudos and whatever. I don't know how we can stop that, other than people learning that doesn't give them the same enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it's like what's the goal or the purpose? If the purpose is just to churn something out, then they don't have that same passion for the writing.
Well, I never understood. I mean, I understand why people would plagiarize something. It's like, I'll steal someone else's fic and I'll get from another fan, and I'll get all the great comments from it. But at the end of the day, it's not yours.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I can't understand. Whereas, I can get so excited over crafting one decent sentence or paragraph or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think I still think fanfic's in a very healthy state. And, the more, as we were talking, the more and more, Discord servers that are popping up, and challenges are still ongoing, and the first impulse people have with a new fandom is to write fic or make art.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so exciting.
There's still hope then.
There is still hope.
And we'll still be writing supernatural fanfic for decades to come.
The heat death of the universe will occur before we stop. And I'm all right with that.
Does that mean you've just watched Good Omens finale, haven't you?
I haven't watched Good Omens.
Oh, okay, because the phrase "heat death of the universe."
Oh no, I use it for a lot of things. I watched the first.
Oh, it's in the Good Omens finale. No spoilers.
There we go. No spoilers, but if you're into it, there you go. I didn't get it from there, but it's an excellent reference anyway.
Yeah. Well, Jules, this has been lovely. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your weekend.
Yeah,
yes,
you as
and
well.
yourself.
It was lovely chatting with you again, and we hope we get to do it again.
Thank you. Keep doing good podcasting. Love it.
Thank you. We'll try. Have a great rest of your weekend as well.
Have a great weekend.
I like all this information. I love all these details. I love all this stuff. I love hearing about how fandom and fanfic and how everything was represented, how different things are. I love
the history. Yeah, I really love the history. And Jules is so passionate as well.
Yeah.
Which is just, I like she was saying about going to see theatre and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter if it's, maybe not great or not to your taste, but people have got together and done it, and it's been people. And that's I share that in my love of live music. I can listen to pretty much anything, because the atmosphere of live music is so thrilling to me, you know, and it's hard not to be swept up and electrified by someone else's passion, and I love that.
But this has been fun. We've got
great.
We've got another episode to record, so we're probably going to wrap up.
So we got to wrap up. Yeah,
but
we're busy people, y'all.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for listening. It's so nice to hear the Jules. It catches up on our podcast every once in a while. I was like talking about that.
Sweet.
So we thank you, Jules. Thanks for coming on, and I think a lot of people are going to have fun listening to the fanfic journey that you went on and everything else. And let us know what you thought of the episode. You can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com. You can comment on Spotify, leave a YouTube comment, join our Discord, and chat with fellow idlers and us in real time. Check out our merch store, which is another fun way to show your support. You can find details for everything on our website. That's idlingintheimpala.com. Want to fuel our supernatural road trip? Consider supporting us on Ko-fi. We have perks to go along with different membership tiers, and would love to have you along for the ride.
Speaking of perks, we've got special shout-outs for some of our Ko-fi members. From our Shotgun Picks and Music tier, we've got Runaway Dreamer, Crowley's Mistress, Sam and Dean 76, Elia, Charlie, and Flannelled Faye. From our Baby Driver tier, we've got Livia. Thanks for picking the tunes in the car and steering us in the right direction. Support like yours keeps our podcast going. Don't forget, you can support us for free by liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, and following, rating, sharing on audio platforms. Engagement like that really helps us with the algorithms. All hail their benevolence. As always, we have the causes we support in the description. So for me, you have LGBTQ plus talking charities. From Sandra, you have mental health charities. And of course, the main causes that we are highlighting, championing, spotlighting are World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders. If you want to know more about these causes, why we're supporting them, what they mean to us, check out idlingintheimpala.com. There's a page there called Causes Cause with all the details. So with that, we will say a huge thank you to Jules for joining us. And thank you for joining us in the back seat. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.